Yeah, this is definitely the highest ranked player I've ever played. See, there's an input error right there, or there's a. I was a little late. That's a good counter hit confirm right here, but I was just a little late on that second light punch, and then that led me to take big. Hello guys, I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time now, and basically it's going to be a video of how to get out of gold if you're stuck in gold, or if you're stuck in silver or bronze. Hopefully this helps. These are things that I learned myself, mainly through film study. Just watching replays and going over just like basically like a combined hours of replay, and then things that mistakes that you're probably making as well that are keeping you from ranking up. So hopefully this helps. Okay, so I want to say like the first and maybe the most important thing that I've seen is anti-airing. I see people fail to anti-air properly, and I think that's a very big important thing. So I think it's important. You might not be able to anti-air every single time, but I think it's very important that you know how to anti-air. You know your character's options, and the reason anti-airing is very important is because if you don't anti-air, then what's basically going to happen is your opponent's gonna be plus. So as soon as your opponent jumps in, they're going to be plus, and they're going to be putting pressure on you, and you're forced to block or forced to tech, and you're basically in a guessing situation. So that's why anti-airing is extremely important. You have to be able to anti-air. I want to say at least 9 times out of 10 you need to have a good anti-air going. If you're a Shoto, if you're a Ryu, then you're gonna have a Shoryuken. But a lot of people are just gonna use Crushing Fierce or maybe a medium punch or something like that. So another part of anti-airing is basically anti-airing cross-ups. So sometimes you might just have to eat the cross-up and block, but most times you could kind of prevent a cross-up from happening depending on the position you're in. So if your opponent's a little too close to you, your regular anti-air is not going to work in most situations. So let me show you an example of what that would look like. Actually, yeah, let me show you. So basically, if you're too close, you see that? Ken went in for a full punish. Like the anti-air just didn't work there. I was a little too close. I was not in the right range to use my regular anti-air. So I'll show you an example of what you should do. So if your opponent's too close, you're gonna want to do if you have an air throw, maybe like a neutral jump air throw or something like that. If you don't have an air throw, then jump back jab will work. So if you just jump back jab, or actually if you're too close, sometimes you can just walk under, and then any move you do after that, you're gonna automatically be plus, because once the character lands from jumping, they're automatically gonna be minus. So like if you can walk under and then start a jab or whatever move, you're gonna be plus in that situation. So that's always a good option as well. So if you're Ryu or if you're someone with a DP, you're going to want to learn what's called a crosscut DP, where you basically walk under and you do like a half circle. I'm not going to go too much into detail on that as well. MDZ Jimmy has a great tutorial on crosscut DPs. I wouldn't worry too much about that, but that is one one a little bit more advanced technique that I would recommend learning at some point. As you're trying to get out of gold, I wouldn't really worry too much about that, but it's a nice little technique if you can get it down. So another important thing that I wanted to talk about that I learned in film study that I wasn't doing is what's called oki, or at least Japanese players call it oki, and basically what that is as your opponent's getting off the ground, you're putting pressure on them. So you're gonna do like a grab, or you might do what's called a meaty, where you're just you're trying to hit them with a strong button as they're getting off the ground. So I'll show you an example of that. So you saw how Ken was he was waking up with buttons, and what I did was I put him in a position to where I can get a counter hit combo. I pressured him as he was getting off the ground. Or you might try to grab them as they're getting off the ground. So there's different options, but like the biggest thing is, or maybe sometimes you might overhead them as they're getting off the ground. But the biggest thing is going to put pressure on them. You know, you just want to make it hard. You want to put them in as many guessing situations as possible. So I think Oki is extremely important. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is defense. A lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to get knocked down, and generally what you're going to want to do is block. Sometimes you're going to want to do what's called a late tech, where you kind of like, you know, delay a little bit, and then you're pressing down back, and then you're grabbing. There's plenty of good tutorials on like defense. Infexious has a good tutorial about that, to learn more about, you know, defense, and MDZ Jimmy talks about that as well. There's a few people that have like really good videos on that, but which I'm not going to go too much into detail. But basically, for the most part, sometimes you're going to want to, you know, wake up pressing buttons. Sometimes you're going to want to do an EX reversal, you know, to get out of situations. But for the most part, you're going to want to be blocking. So in this example, as you see, like I'm just blocking as Ken's, you know, sometimes what's going to happen is you're going to be grabbed. So what's great about late teching is, you know, you're delaying your grab just a little bit. So like if they, you know, if they grab you, you know, it's basically an option select. Like, you know, a late grab is basically gonna beat a, like if you're getting meatied or if you're, you know, about to be grabbed. Of course, you know, there's shimmying. You know, like of course you can be shimmied where your opponent moves back and then, you know, punishes your grab attempt. I'm not gonna cover that now because, you know, in Gold League you're not really gonna see too much shimmying. Like for the most part, you know, I'm just gonna focus on the basics for this video. So in this example, I'm going to talk about neutral a little bit. Like I said, this is a get out of gold film, so or a get out of gold video, so I'm not going to focus too much on neutral. There's a lot of, you know, pros that have, you know, videos if you want to, like, you know, be like a pro or something like that. But in this video, I'm going to focus more on, like, you know, simple neutral. Basically, when you're really close. You see how I got crush countered there? When you're really close, you don't really want to be pressing too many medium punch, you know, heavies, you know, stuff like that. Like you want to be, like if you're going to use a heavy button, you want to use it from max range generally. That's when you're going to get, because otherwise you're going to get crush countered. Or you see how in this example I used a light punch and then I fished for a counter hit combo. So basically, that's what you want to do. Like when you're in neutral and you're really close, you generally want to, you know, want to use light buttons and, you know, fish for a counter hit. Sometimes you want to use what's called a buffer as well. Like I'll show you an example with Colleen. For example, every character has this, but Colleen, you know, heavy punch, buffer into EX Parabellum. See, nothing comes out. But if I'm in range or he throws something out, or if he walks into my heavy punch, you know, the input will come out. So, you know, that's what's going to happen. So there's just, you know, a few options there, like if you're, you know, you're playing in neutral. I want to talk about one other thing that I see a lot before I get into like the replay stuff, is basically like there's always things you can do to optimize a little bit more. Like for example, I see a lot of this, you know, like when I watch fights. Like, you know, like someone does a sweep and then you don't really get like the max punish that you can get. So like I'll show you a good example. Like if someone does a sweep, there's usually something more you can do to get, you know, more damage, depending on the range too. Like if you're close enough, you know what I mean? Like if you're close enough, sweeps are like -10, -11 a lot of times. So usually you can get a lot more damage. And then I'll show you another thing that I notice a lot. Is like if say someone misses their DP. You see this happen a lot. Like, you know, that's not the optimal way to punish that, you know, and what that's gonna do is it's not gonna make people afraid to do, you know, to miss their DP. You know what I mean? Like if you do stuff like that, that's not optimizing. So a better way to optimize is, you know, maybe something like this. You know, sometimes you can get a full neutral jump. And keep this in mind. Like a lot of times you get a free counter hit. Like if someone misses a DP or something like that, you can get a free counter hit. Sometimes you get, you can get a lot more damage, as opposed to just like, grabbing someone. That doesn't do, something like that. I mean, that doesn't do like, when you get an opportunity, you want to make the most of it. Basically, that's what I mean by optimization. Okay, so in this next segment, I want to analyze one of my losses, and I want to show you what to look for. Like when you're, generally you kind of want to watch for one thing, like one particular thing sometimes, like how was my defense, and generally like, and that's the number one thing really I think you want to watch for, So this is my, the last series that I lost. And I'm going to be analyzing this replay. It just so happens to be against the Warlord, so... but basically what you want to do is the first thing you want to turn on is, your key display and your attack data. What this is going to do is it's going to show you... It's going to show you everything. Like, it's going to show you inputs. Like, if you missed an input, it's going to show you, if a move is plus. Like, I learned a lot of frame data just watching replays, so... let's go ahead and analyze this match. So what you want to look for is a lot of times, like if you're throwing out a lot of buttons, like if you're just like throwing a lot of buttons out in neutral, and you might get jumped in on a lot, and then you might realize one thing you might notice is, man, I'm not anti-airing. Like why wasn't I anti-airing? And you'll realize through replay sometimes that I was throwing out a button, and then someone jumped in on me. So like as I was throwing out a button, I just barely had time to recover and block, so I didn't have time to anti-air. So that's one thing you want to watch out for is you don't want to be throwing out too many buttons. See that anti-air right here? Had I have kept throwing out buttons like that, I wouldn't have had the time to jump up and anti-air him right there. So that's one thing I'm telling you, that it might not sound like a big deal, but it's a huge deal. If you throw out too many buttons, you're going to limit your ability to anti-air. And there's another one right there. So I was anti-airing really well in this match. So that was not the problem. That was not the problem. Another thing you want to pay attention to is are you spamming a move? Like if you're spamming a move too much, like say you might be, if you spam a move, you're going to be too predictable, and that's going to cause problems as well. Okay, so look at this real quick. I've had matches where I went back and looked to see that I lost, and what happened was I was spamming this move too much, and this will get you in big trouble. By the way, if you're a Falk player, or even if you're a Kuma player and you just have, if all you do is throw air fireballs, you're gonna get yourself into trouble. Look at that. This might not actually be the best match to analyze the loss. I'm going to be honest, because I think I played really well in this match. I just so happened that I got outplayed. I happened to be playing a Warlord in the last series, and these guys are. See, look at this. This is optimization right here. Counter hit only combo. I don't know. This might not be the best replay to watch, but it is my last, the last series that I lost, and I think I just got outplayed, is what it is. Like I don't think there's a thing that I was doing wrong. But normally, like when you watch replays, you'll realize there's like a number of things you've done wrong, or maybe just one thing in particular where you could have, had you not have done that thing, you would have been better. See, look at this. I had an opportunity to anti-air, just wasn't ready for it. And that's another thing. Like when you play against high-level players, or the higher up you go, the less they jump, right? And then because they're jumping less, you're not expecting the jump. So when they finally do jump, you're still prepared for it, but at the same time, like sometimes you're just not. Like sometimes you're not used to it. And this is what I'm talking. This was what I was talking about earlier. He jumped in on me, and he's in a plus situation, so you just got to be careful. You don't want to be jumped in on too much. Yeah, I don't think this was actually a bad replay, to be honest. I think he just outplayed me there. See, look at this. He jumped in on me. I could have anti-aired and kept him off of me, but because I didn't anti-air here, see, I'm in a minus situation now. See that? The pressure's on me. Yeah, so he won that one. Another thing is patience. You know, you want to be patient. You want to play. Sometimes you want to play lame. What it's called is, there's a term in the fighting game community called playing lame, and basically what that means is, there's nothing lame about it, but like basically what that means is you're not, like you're just waiting for them to make a mistake. So that's basically what that means. So sometimes you'll find in certain replays that you're just being too aggressive, like you're just being too hyper, you're jumping, you're doing all kinds of stuff, and then but generally, like when you're watching a replay, this is what you want to do. You're trying to determine why you lost. Obviously you're going to lose no matter what. Like you're not going to win every match. I mean, at some point you're going to lose, but there's always things that you can be doing better. And then sometimes it's a chess match, like sometimes it's, he did this before, so I'm going to do this next time and, change up on him. So it's a chess match a lot of times too. It's a good anti-air there. Yeah, this is definitely the highest ranked player I've ever played. See, there's an input error right there, or there's a. I was a little late. That's a good counter hit confirm right here. But I was just a little late on that second light punch, and then that led me to take big damage. And obviously, like the higher you get, the more you're going to be exposed for mistakes that you make. Look at that. Did you see that dash check? That was really good right there. So I don't really. I think it's just I'm just getting outplayed in this match. Like this probably isn't the best match to show, but I just got outplayed. Okay. So, what happened here? See, I was waking up with a button there, and see, he got, he. This is what I was talking about earlier. Oki, like he was in an Oki situation where he hit me as I was pressing buttons, waking up. So he gets a big counter hit combo right there. He's still in Oki, by the way. As I'm getting off the ground, see that? Yep, and he got me there. So basically, that's what you want to do when you're watching a replay. That's what you want to look for. Mistakes that you made, things that you could have done better. Am I anti-airing properly? How is my defense? Am I spamming a move? You know, how was I in neutral? Was I pressing, you know, heavy buttons, you know, really close? Was I whiffing too many buttons and then not being able to have time to anti-air? That's a big one right there. You know, if you press too many buttons in neutral, someone tries to jump in on you, and then next thing you know, you're in a minus situation. You have to block. You have to guess. Oh, is he going to grab me? Is he going to tick throw me? You know, stuff like that. So I do want to add another note. I would highly recommend watching film study of, you know, someone one level up. Like if you're stuck in bronze, you know, maybe watch someone in gold or silver. But I think if you're stuck in gold, you want to watch someone that's in platinum. Like you don't want to watch someone that I would highly recommend that over watching someone that's a warlord. Just because like if you're watching a warlord, chances are they're going to be respecting each other too much. Like they're not going to be jumping at each other. They're not going to be throwing out, you know, a bunch of buttons. So you're not really going to learn anti-airing. You're not really going to learn a lot of technique because they're just going to be doing, like they're not really going to be taking risks against each other, you know. So I'd recommend watching, you know, someone in platinum, because then you're going to get to see opportunities to anti-air. You're going to see like what they do in each situation, you know. Like if someone's in platinum, you're going to get to see, you know, how they punish certain things, you know, how they punish unsafe moves. But like if you're only watching like warlords and like, you know, people that are, you know, really high rank, you're not going to get to see all that, you know. So because they're not going to be taking those risks in the first place. So I'd highly recommend that. But I would say like if you're still stuck in bronze at this point, another thing is just work on anti-airs. You know, work on anti-airs and, you know, be patient. You know, don't try to be too aggressive. Just be patient. You know, try to let them make the mistake. You know, and you know that's what I'd highly recommend for that level. So I guess that's it for now. If you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel. You know, it's my first time doing something like this. You know, I had some success, you know, so, you know, I wanted to give back a little bit to the fighting game community, you know. But also, there's some things I didn't cover, you know, because this is a get out of gold video. I didn't really cover shimmies that much. I didn't really cover, you know, crosscut DPs and stuff like that. I'll leave a link in the description of good videos to check out for that. And you know, if you want to, I wouldn't focus on those things, you know, at first. Like just focus on the basics. And then, you know, later on, if you're in platinum, I would definitely consider, you know, getting into those. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.